And I remember Chad telling me that there's going to be a point in this conversation that you have, and it's the window of opportunity. I'll put window of opportunity kind of in air quotes, right? And he's like, you'll see it. You'll see that window, and you'll feel that window. And you got to jump through that window when the window is there, because once it closes, it's done. And you got to take that shot when it's there. And I missed that window.
Welcome to the Abundant Vision Fundraising Podcast. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a first-time fundraiser, we have the advice you need to take your next step towards major gift mastery. Today, I'm interviewing my first manager in the ultra-competitive world of higher ed fundraising. Some of you have heard me tell the story of when a manager of mine forced me to solicit someone I knew was going to turn me down just so I could have the experience of making a large ask. That was this guy right here. I'm pleased to introduce you all to Jim Mahoney. Now, he was my boss there at the dental school at Ohio State University, where he's the chief development officer. But then he went on to become the VP at Adrian College, a position he still holds today. Well, Jim, it's a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be here. Excited to talk with you.
Right. Well, Jim, I know I've given you a little bit of an introduction, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself. When you're not fundraising for Adrian College, how do you keep busy?
Yeah, I've got a very active family right now. I've got a 18-year-old who's finishing up his first semester at Capital University down there in Columbus, Bexley. I've got a 15-year-old son who is playing his first year of high school hockey after many years of travel hockey. So that keeps us very busy. And a 12-year-old daughter who basically runs our house. She's involved with dance and, a million other things, and just, runs our house. I think that's the appropriate way to say it. So
They're good at that, aren't they?
They're very good at that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know I've given an overview there of your career journey to some degree, but we'd love to hear from you. Where did your journey into fundraising start? And how did you get where you are presently?
Yeah. So, I won't bore you with my whole long story of why I chose and wasn't going to go to college, but, I ended up coming to Adrian College from small town in Ohio, Amherst, Ohio. Went to a high school learning Catholic. Came to Adrian really for the sole reason to play golf.
Oh, wow.
Thought, if I'm going to go to college, I'm going to just play golf in college. And so I came here to play golf, singular reason. Got here and ended up becoming just very, very involved. Student life, Greek life, just really, really used those 4 years to kind of burn the candle at both ends. Take a lot of cool courses, but it really was our director of multicultural affairs here who I'd gotten really close with. And she said, you should look at working in higher ed. And so I did an internship here with our advancement office. I actually ran the phonathon for a semester when I was a senior. And I had worked phonathon as a student because I wanted to make some money. Quite honestly, didn't know what a phonathon did. But, I really was like, wow, higher education, really cool. Went on the Bowling Green.
Go Falcons.
Yeah, go Falcons. Was part of their college student personnel program there for a couple years.
What years were you there, Jim?
I was there 2000, 2002. Okay. And again, it was a student life degree. And so my assistantship was based in student life. But again, I just had this kind of interest in learning more about advancement, alumni development, grant writing, all of that. And so my first year, I actually walked over to the Maletti Center, walked into the annual giving office, and I said, hey, look, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I want to learn more about this, and I'll do whatever you need me to do for the next 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And the director of annual giving, a woman named Amy Davis, who became a tremendous mentor of mine, said, I can't pay you, but I can give you some great experiences. And I said, let's go. And so she was awesome. She really took me under her wing at BG and let me do some really cool things with their what they called their family campaign, which is their faculty staff campaign. Got to help with their phonathon, wrote grants. She was amazing. And at the same time, I got to meet a woman who was a graduate of the CSP program at Bowling Green,
Okay.
a woman named Sue Frost. And Sue did a mock interview with me to help me kind of, just hone my interviewing skills for advancement type positions. And when we got done with it, she said, I want you to call my boss, a guy named John Meyer at Ohio State, and, introduce yourself to him. And so, I know it's super cliche to say, but, the who kind of, to get you in certain, positions or uh, conversations, it truly was me calling John and saying, Sue Frost told me I should give you a call. And he said, yep, Sue told me you would be calling me. I don't have any positions open at Ohio State right now, but if you want to come down and talk with me, you can come down on your own dime. And so drove down to Columbus from Bowling Green, and I guess the rest is history, unless you want to know what the history is.
Yeah. So it's funny, and I want to stop here and just point out a few interesting things because some of our listeners are new to the fundraising world. Some of them are going to be executive directors. Some of them are entry level fundraisers. Those sorts of folks. Some of them are more experienced, but the small world that we live in as fundraisers, especially major gift fundraisers, it's remarkable. I mean, one thing our audience wouldn't know is one of the reasons. I don't think it was the reason you hired me, Jim, but I worked for Michael Ginsberg, who was my hall director. I was an RA at Bowling Green, and you knew him through your experience in the graduate school, so that certainly didn't hurt.
Yeah, Michael and I would go for coffee quite a bit.
Yeah,
I got to know him really well during my 2 years at BG. Absolutely, and yeah, I mean, it's this world is, especially higher ed. I mean,
Mhm.
and when you dissect it into alumni or advancement and Greek
Yeah,
life and residence life, it becomes even smaller. But it is truly amazing, like how interconnected so many of these institutions are, because so many professionals, especially again in higher ed, kind of when they advance in their careers, they can move from one stop to the next, and you kind of have your branches of connections and relationships you've made through the
yeah,
years, and
that's
how
right.
those have potentially either you look at that person or look for those individuals to work with you again, or you help them try to advance their career. And that's always been a really cool part of higher ed.
Yeah, no, that is very cool. And then I should point out that the same Sue Frost that helped you out later, she became my boss
That's right.
at Ohio State. So it's really a small world, really a small world.
And truthfully, I run into Sue at conferences through the years, or if I'm down in Columbus, and still, I mean, this is 20 plus years later. I still thank her for that opportunity. I mean, I'm not sure I would have picked up the phone and called John Meyer on my own, but because of her nudging, which, by the way, was still kind of a nerve wracking thing to do uh, as a 24-year-old, calling, an associate or assistant vice president at the time at the Ohio State University. I was like, why would he want to talk to me?
Right, right.
Um, but it was kind of a nice life lesson, and maybe there was even a advancement lesson in that of don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call.
That's right.
What's the worst that someone can tell you? No? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we just keep moving forward.
Wow, that's great. So we've sort of talked about this, in terms of, knowing that you wanted to raise money. and I know you did some phonathon work there. When did it click for you in that process of being a student that, hey, I could do this the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you the exact moment. I mean, probably if I looked at a calendar, I could figure out the date.
Really?
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, I remember sitting in the basement of Davis Hall here at Adrian College, and this is probably 1997, 1998, somewhere in there. It was either fall phonathon or spring phonathon,
Yeah.
and again, like I signed up because I wanted to make some money, and I saw an advertisement at the time saying, "You want to make money? You know, call this number and work in the advancement office." And I remember sitting in the basement of this where our phonathon room was, and there was all these wires hanging from the ceiling, and you had to dial like 25 numbers even to get out. I mean, it was
Yeah.
old school phones. And this woman who was our gift processor was sitting at a desk with stacks of paper in front of her, all the phonathon sheets, and we had this flip chart, to show the progress of phonathon. And I remember making some phone calls and getting hung up on and getting told no. And then I remember, the first gift that I closed was $100, and was for a department that this alum was very associated with. It was actually the teacher education department, and I remember having a really good call with this person, them asking me about my time as a student, me talking to them about their time when they were here. And I hung up the phone and I hit this bell that was on our desk for that. And I just remember saying, ding, $100. And everyone was like, yeah. And you got to go up there and flip the chart over $100, and you got to do it yourself.
Oh, that's great.
And I was just like, wow, like all I did was like talk to this person about their time at the college, and I asked them to be a part of, I was following the script that they gave us, obviously, but I just was like, it was just like a cool conversation to have, and it truthfully made me forget about all the no's and the hangups that I got before I got to that gift.
Yeah.
And the vice president at the time was a guy named Bill Kenyon, and he was down there. And Bill, I remember saying to Bill, I said, Mr. Kenyon, like, how cool is this? Like, I mean, I just like got $100 from this person I never even talked to before. I don't even know. And he was basically like, yeah, I do that every day. And I was like, really? That's like a real job. And it really opened my eyes to that advancement,
Yeah.
development, fundraising world. And I was like, well, how cool is that? Like, I basically go to work and ask people for money. Okay, let me learn more about this. And that's what opened up, when I was talking to Danielle, who was our director of multicultural affairs. And I thought, maybe I want to learn more about this world in higher ed. And I still wasn't sure if that's where I wanted to go, but that was really my first taste of, okay, I could see myself doing this. But I knew I knew by going to Bowling Green, I was going to be really kind of my eyes open to other areas of campus too. And I really kind of left it to myself, saying, all right, let me see if I am interested fully in advancement or Greek life, res life, something like that. And like I said, I was at BG for about a month, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go into advancement.
That's great. Do you ever find yourself getting a phone call from like BG, like I do, from the student phonathon, and then you're having a career conversation with the caller?
Absolutely. It honestly, in some ways, I think it used to drive my wife crazy because I would take the phone call every single time because I know that world, right? And like
Mhm.
this is just a student sitting in their call center, presumably, and saying, reading off a script, making whatever 7, 8, 9, $10 an hour. What I don't even know what they pay now. And I thought, that was me
Right,
20 plus years ago. And
right.
so I take every single call, every single call.
I pretty much do as well. And I'll be on the phone with them for 40 minutes. And it never fails to surprise me how none of them think about it as a potential career path.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
you're right. You're right.
2024 could be the year you start a major gift program at your nonprofit. This means more money to help your organization serve more people and better fundraising ROI too. Starting a major gift fundraising program takes some planning and some work to make sure you are ready for that first solicitation. Fortunately for you, I've got a free online class where I walk you through the top 20 questions you need to answer before starting a major gift program, all in under 15 minutes. Knowing these questions and spending the time to get to your answers will go a long way towards helping you close your very first gift. Now, if you want this free resource, all you need to do is visit my online school at thomas-dauber-s-school.teachable.com. That's thomas-dauber-s-school.teachable.com. The link is in the podcast description. So moving on, so you end up at Ohio State ultimately. How did that go? How did you land that first job at OSU? You obviously talked to John Meyer.
Yeah, so John told me, I was getting towards the end of my time at Bowling Green, and I said this already. He told me there were no job openings at the time, and I said to myself and to John, look, I'm about to graduate. I need a job. I'm about to get married. So I was in like full job pursuit. And so John told me, he said, look, if a job comes open that I think you might be a good candidate for, I'll reach out to you. But in the meantime, if you see a job come open, give me a call and let me know, and I'll tell you if that's a good, position for you to at least apply for. Yeah. And I remember calling him and saying, hey, I'm going to apply for the director of development position in the College of Social Work. And he said, no, you're not. And I said, no, I am. And he said, no, you're not. That's not a good first position for you. And I said, okay, a reminder, I'm about to graduate. I'm about to get married. And he's like, Jim, I'm just telling you, that's not the right first position for you. He said, but there is a position coming open in the College of Dentistry, and no guarantees, but I can at least get you an interview with their chief development officer. And he's a new guy named Chad Goebel, and he's just starting out, but I can set that up for you. I said, great. And I met with Chad, and Chad was telling me like this was a college that raised about $1 million a year, and he had these big visions on growing the development efforts there. And kind of on the back of a napkin, probably at Adriatico's Pizza, he showed me what he wanted to do. And which is funny. I'll come back to a story about back of a napkin later.
Yeah, please.
He said, this is what I want to do. And I thought to myself, geez, this guy, like, really, I could learn a lot from him. Came from University of Maryland and had a background, and I thought for a first job maybe I can learn a lot from Chad, and geez, I really hope I could get this position. And I got offered and took it, and Chad and I worked together for a couple years, and then he got recruited by the Cleveland Clinic, the cardiovascular center, and he left. But it was during those first couple of years. I mean, boy, I probably put 75,000 miles on my car in the first 2 years, just driving around the state of Ohio, going to dental offices and working with dentists. And it was just such an amazing first opportunity because I got to do so much cold calling. I got to do, proposal generation. Really, again, like it was $1 million a year. They were raising about $1 million before we got there, and I think our first year we raised $4 million, and we got up $9 million. I want to even say, like right before we left, somewhere in there, maybe it was 6 or 7, but it was still, pretty pretty, aggressive from where we first started. And so, yeah, it was a really great first experience. Got to work with some amazing alums, obviously amazing colleagues like yourself. I think we had fun.
Yeah, we did.
And but and truthfully, and I actually think back on this quite a bit. I never thought I'd leave Ohio State when I first started working there. I'm from Ohio. My wife's from Ohio. We had family in Columbus, and it was really like one opportunity that made me think about it, and it was coming back to my alma mater. Sure. And when I took that phone call in late 2005 from the vice president who I interned under, and he said, "Do you want to meet this new president? Because we're about to grow our office and do some really cool things here at Adrian." I thought, I've learned a lot in 4 years at Ohio State. I've closed some pretty significant gifts. Yeah, maybe I can help out my alma mater. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I progressed through Ohio State and got into Ohio State and then left Ohio State. And I've been at Adrian ever since. I mean, which is probably a rarity for advancement professionals or development professionals. I mean, I've only really worked at 2 institutions.
Yeah, well, that's right. It made your introduction like really easy. So I'm curious. So you get to the dental school, and at some point, you've got to make your first major gift ask. And you've really only been doing annual giving up till this point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How much was it for the ask? And how did you feel when you did it? And how did it turn out?
So, yeah, I won't say the name of the dentist because I still know who it is. I do think about that time quite a bit. I was in a Mediterranean restaurant in the Columbus area having lunch with this dentist. Chad, who was my boss, was there too. He had set this up for me, or he didn't set up the appointment. I set up the appointment, but he told me what, kind of other conversations I had with this alum. And he said, let's ask this alum for $25,000, $5,000 a year for the next 5 years. And I remember Chad telling me that there's going to be a point in this conversation that you have, and it's the window of opportunity. And I'll put window of opportunity kind of in air quotes, right? And he's like, you'll see it. You'll see that window, and you'll feel that window. And you got to jump through that window when the window is there, because once it closes, it's done. And you got to take that shot when it's there. And I missed that window. And I let that window shut, slam, everything in front of me. And, it was awkward. It was, kind of disheartening a little bit, because, we ended up having a really nice conversation, but we got back in the car and driving back to the college, and Chad was like, you missed that opportunity. And it was there, and, you got to kind of find the courage to come out and say it. And
that's quite a cliffhanger for us to end on, Jim. But we're going to have to take a break right there. We will be taking the next week off for the holidays, but be sure to join us again on Tuesday, January 2nd, to hear how Jim recovered from missing the window and went on to a great career as a major gift officer. I'm your host, Tom Dauber. Thank you for joining me as we journey together towards major gift mastery on the Abundant Vision Fundraising Podcast.